Hello everyone and welcome to another Winged Review. On the cast today is the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I originally saw the series a few months ago and I did a review for it on The Escapist, but from the responses that I got, people said that I seem to focus too much on some areas and not enough on others. Now I've got the seasons on DVD, I thought it would be a good opportunity to do a bit more of an in-depth review of each series as I go along. Basic plot: there are four nations: Fire Nation, Earth Kingdom, Water Tribe and the Air Nomads, and people from each nation are able to control the elements that their nation is affiliated with. So people from the Fire Nation can control fire, etc, etc, and this is known as bending. The Fire Nation start a war, but the only person that could have stopped them was the Avatar, master of all four elements, who acts as a sort of peacekeeper between the nations. Shortly before the Fire Nation commenced their attack, the Avatar disappeared, leaving them unopposed. 100 years later, the new Avatar, a 12-year-old airbender called Aang, is discovered in a block of ice near the Southern Water Tribe at the South Pole. He's found by Katara and Sokka, two members of the Southern Water Tribe, and at first Aang just thinks that he's been away for a few days, but then as he knows absolutely nothing about the war, which has now been going on for 100 years, they realise that he's been gone for over 100 years. He, as the Avatar, it's his responsibility to stop the Fire Nation and end the war. But, although he's only mastered airbending, he has to learn the other elements first. And so they decide that they're going to travel up to the North Pole, where there's a much bigger water tribe, and they should easily be able to find a waterbending master that should be able to teach him in order to start the cycle. On the way to the North Pole, they're hunted by Prince Zuko. He is the son of the Fire Lord Ozai. Zuko has been banished from the Fire Nation, and he spends all of his time hunting for the Avatar, and he has been for a number of years now. Problem mainly that I've got with this series is that although they leave for the North Pole on episode 2, they don't actually get to the North Pole on episode 18, which is ridiculous. Granted, it will take a long time to travel from the South Pole all the way up to the North Pole, but they could have done it as episode 2, leaving the South Pole, episode 3, arriving at the North Pole. But I can understand that they were going to have a few episodes in between just to show what happens. It's just that they spend a few too many episodes doing that. And when I first watched the series a few months ago, I actually nearly gave up watching it just because there were too many episodes where it just seemed as though it was like a random encounter after random encounter. They do break it up with having decent episodes in between, and just as you're starting to think, yeah, get on with it, they do throw something awesome at you. It could be something to do with character background, like the episode where you find out why Zuko was banished from the Fire Nation and why he spends all of his time tracking the Avatar. Or in the same episode, you actually find out why Aang was in the block of ice and how he reacted the first time he was told that he was the Avatar. It's because of these small episodes that the character development in this series is really, really good. With Aang, for example, he starts off when he's discovered in the iceberg. As a 12-year-old, all he wants to do is mess around and have fun, as you can understand. For the first few episodes, it is pretty much just prattling about, but then, about halfway through, there's an episode where he manages to speak to the spirit of one of the previous Avatars, Avatar Roku. He tells him a bit more about the war and his responsibilities as the Avatar, and that he is eventually going to have to fight the Fire Lord in order to end the war. From that episode on, Aang seems to take his Avatar duties a bit more seriously, and there are from then a few episodes where he does try to be a bit more as the Avatar should and not just want to mess around all the time, which again is really good for the character development. My favourite character though has to be Sokka. Although he is in there mostly at the start for comic relief, he is absolutely hilarious, and the number of times I actually creased up laughing at some of the stuff that he did, he's just genius. And as the series goes on, again with the character development, he ends up becoming a bit more of the warrior, tactician and battle plan person. He still keeps up with his comic relief, and to have that change between person just being very funny to then having them being the battle planning and coming up with all these brilliant ideas and still be funny, he is just a great character and he's definitely my favourite one. Although they do have some of the character development episodes through the 16 odd episodes between them getting to the North Pole, They also do have just some generally good episodes like the one with Jet or the Kyoshi Warriors. A lot of the people that they meet along the way do make a comeback, but if you are just watching it for the first time, you're not going to know that, so it does just seem as though they are just meeting random group after random group. Aside from that, the animation of the series is really, really good. There's a lot of bending in it, particularly the Fire Nation. There are some absolutely brilliant bending battles, particularly when they do get to the North Pole. Katara challenges one of the water bending masters to a duel, and it is possibly the greatest fight in the series. It is very well done. The imagination that they actually put into the water bending, turning it into ice, how they fling it around and everything is amazing, and it is a really good episode. And the awesomeness level, when they get to the North Pole, it just goes through the roof, and it's brilliant. One thing I suppose I have to mention with this series is that they did make a live action film of it, which I'm sure most of you know about, but I am actually boycotting it. I saw the trailer for the film when it first came out, and I mentioned the film to a few people saying that it looked like a good film, and all they all said was, watch the series, not the film. And I am so glad that I watched the series instead, because the series is absolutely genius, and I am now completely boycotting the film, and it is very, very unlikely that I will actually watch the film. As the series goes, for the first one, wrapping things up, it is definitely an introductory episode where they do try to introduce you to everything, which is probably where the meandering episodes come into it, but even so, it is still a very, very good series, and I would highly recommend it to anyone. See you next time.